So I've got burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, permanent yellow light, permanent pyro red light, titanium white, and turquoise blue. And I've mixed up some browns and blacks using the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, and I've also mixed up a little bit of a red, orangey red color for the highlights. So here's the painting I'm working on, and I've had a few people ask me lately about painting a little bit looser and how you paint a little bit looser. So this painting was blocked in already with thinned paint, just thinned with water. And right now I'm just scrubbing in a very thin layer of linseed oil because this previous layer is well dried. It's been dried for a long time. I'll start with my darks. I've got a touch of linseed oil in the paint just to help it flow. And I'm using the black mixture I made with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And I'm using my soft Princeton Umbria synthetic flat brush. This one's a size 2. This is a large painting, 30 inches by 60 inches. So I'm just showing you a little piece of it. Basically just filling in these dark colors. Once I've got the darks in, I will switch to my next color, which is really a dark brown. This one's almost a black color. So one of the keys when if you want to paint a little bit looser is to have the colors pre-mixed. Another one is to switch brushes between colors. And a third technique that you would use is to lay your color down and leave it alone. Just doing a little on the mane here. I'm mostly going to concentrate on the ears in this video, but while I've got my darkest color here, since that's really the only dark color like that in this area, I'll just put it down. I'll be working on the rest of the painting later on today, so the paint will stay wet. So I'm continuing adding the darkest brown here. It will blend a little bit with the black paint as I go. The black that's a mixture of my burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. But I'm just laying it down and not trying to mix it except what it mixes kind of on its own. And once I finish with this dark brown, I will switch to my next lighter brown color. And then I've got some grays kind of mixed up that are still the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, but just a slightly different proportion and adding a touch of the titanium white. These ears are quite dark in general, so it's a little bit difficult to see the subtleties of the color. You'll see it more when I put the gray in. And you can see I haven't done the background yet. I will bring the background edges in and around the ears to finish that area off. so that when I do come to paint my background, I won't have to be as careful around the ears. Plus I get to work the edges how I want them. I can soften them or sharpen them as I want if I paint the background around the wet paint in the ears. Just starting to work in gradually lighter shades of brown. Inside the ears is really very dark, but there are a few subtle variations of color, and it keeps it interesting. So the variations of color start to indicate a few different shapes, and where the light will catch it more, some of the grays will come into play. If I get too much paint on here, it's easy enough to just wipe some of it off with a Q-tip if I need to. So just finishing off the last of this lighter brown color, and then I'll go in here with some of the grays. Now you don't want to paint every hair, you're just putting in indication, and you can see 1 or 2 strokes and then back to the palette because that keeps the colors fresh. If you start fiddling around too much, it blends them together, so really important, 1 or 2 strokes and then back to the palette. Of course, there's nothing wrong with blending your colors, but if your goal is to have a little bit looser painting, this is what you need to do. Pick up a different brush if you're going to change colors. Here's the lighter brown. Very easy to soften any of these lines later if I want to. But for starters, just by laying the colors down cleanly, then I can decide. And so I'll start to go around the outside here with my lighter gray color. And I can use the wet paint to refine the edge. Again, back to the palette after you've done a few strokes because it'll start to pick up the dark paint from in the ear. And most of this background will be kind of varying shades of light gray, but where the light hits the ear on this side, I'm going to be putting just a little bit of my bright orangey red color. That will help it to stand out. It's really subtle. You really won't see hardly any of it. Once I finish with it, I'll put it on and then I'll come in with the white color. my lightest highlight where the light is bouncing off the hairs of the ears, and it's just a white with a very little of my orangey red in it. And even lighter than my gray background color. Sometimes where light meets shadow, you can inject some really bright color. It seems to work good there. So I'll just continue working around the lightest highlights on the ears, just where the light comes in from one side. So once I finished going around the ears with the background, one of the most important things I can do here, if my goal is to keep this painting loose, is to walk away. Don't stand there and fiddle with it. Just walk away and leave it. You can always change things when you come back, but make sure you give yourself a chance to get used to seeing the painting as it is loosely done before you get your nose right up to it and start fiddling with every little hair. So by all means, walk away.